We have a client who purchased artwork and they've publicly had the artwork revoked, which is interesting. We see this very rarely, but let's get into this because this is a whirlwind. This is posted on Twitter by Juliet, aka Twitch Juliet. This person has a lot of lore. They used to go by the name of Needy VT, and I already have like 3 videos about them. The gist of their situation is they were known in the VTuber space for doing a lot of art giveaways, etc. And they essentially got Giga canceled off the internet in one massive swoop with the beginning of them upselling a model. And it just kind of went downhill from there with people talking about their experiences, everybody dogpiling on the whole situation. There was just an absolute Twitter storm. Prior to the Cinder call out, that was like the biggest cancellation I've seen in a hot minute in the VTuber space. So I'll have the video link down below if you do want to watch it. There's 2 sides to every story, of course, but the general gist is they've basically rebranded to a different name as a result of that. So that's kind of the backstory behind this person. They're just back on Twitter now, kind of doing the art thing again. And they say, publicly revoking permission from Aria Miratai to use this design, who refunded me $500 for their model in the making and is not replying to me. They also went by a previous name of Arsana VT and their Discord of Skip VT, which I can no longer find or contact. They received all design art and their model is already paid for and in line. I spoke to PayPal support and they said Aria won their case today due to PayPal being unable to fight certain credit card company disputes because of that bank's customer protection policy. This negative balance helped lead to some of my bills shut off for 1 month and unable to feed myself, so I had to seek local churches and Salvation Armies for assistance. Refunds are against my TOS. Please respect that for others going forward with your VTuber journey. You may not use this design ever. Since the model art is already paid for and in the making, I will be giving this model away fully rigged with expressions. Stay tuned for an official giveaway post for it. So here we have the design in question. It's kind of like a purple magical bunny girl with 2 big pigtails. Here, these are the DMs between Aria and Juliet, where Aria says, my username is SkipVT and I added you. Juliet says, all right, got you added. I'll update you as soon as I can. Thanks. And on April 15th, Juliet says, hello, dear. Can I ask why you requested a refund? And they attach the screenshot of Aria's Twitter. Juliet adds, I wish Aria no harm or ill will. No hard feelings, all is well. I wish you the best going forward. King D says, while the situation seems shifty, I gotta say, a no refund policy gives massive red flags. Juliet says, it's very common in TOS. If you don't agree to the TOS, just don't order. I will say for this one, I do see both sides. Personally, for me, a straight up no refunds point blank period is a red flag. I do think refunds should be offered in specific scenarios, as in like if you didn't start the artwork yet and they need a refund, I do think it's fair to request a refund, etc. On the other hand, artists are also entitled to set their own policies, and if you don't agree with the policy, then just don't work with the artist. So if you disagree with the no refunds and this artist TOS has a no refunds in their policy, then don't commission this artist. I do see both sides on that. And another commenter says, yeah, but TOS does not give you a right to scam people. Also, TOS is not the law. TOSs are fine as long as they are legal. In most places, if you fail to deliver a paid service by the time you set, the person paying has a legal right to a refund. And Juliet says her order is in line. No one got scammed but me. No time was set ever, and her spot in line can be viewed at any time. Fair? I do think also it's a bit of a red flag that no time was ever set, because if no time was ever set, then there's no way to hold the artist accountable for delivering on time, because there is no time. So I do think that when it comes to artwork, you should set a delivery date so that we can honor the refund situation. I would also say that ideally 6 months would be the maximum window because PayPal has a 6-month window to dispute the charge. A commenter writes, yes, this is what you told me about some time back when I first reached out. I suppose they saw you as weak and easy to exploit due to your previous drama. And Juliet says, even if what Twitter accused me of upselling designs, which is completely untrue, but let's say if it were true, I have 3 years of delivered V-babies and never scammed anyone or not delivered work. Her excuses are her grasping at straws, trying to justify scamming me. My lengthy process has always been a part of my TOS for 2 years now. The TOS says no refunds, even if you're doing a payment plan. No matter the reason, no refunds. The TOS says orders are usually done within 3 to 7 days once started. However, I have a long line, so you'll need to pay a rush fee to have it delivered by a guaranteed date. Also, again, about the upselling thing, there was like a lot of nuance with the situation. You'll have to watch the video to get the full nuance, but there was some gray area of misinterpretation. But here we have Twitter user Aria Miratide, who made a thread about their side of the situation. Aria writes, to clarify anybody wondering, Needy VT, who is Juliet, only asked me why I was requesting the refund after I called the bank because she outright denied me one without any recourse, when she hadn't provided any model updates of any kind since I purchased it almost half a year ago. She has my Discord still, where she denied my request for a refund but chose to message me on Twitter, where I check my DMs significantly less frequently, when we had already agreed to move communication to Discord. The lack of context is ridiculous. I had no reason to believe a model was being worked on at all because I had been told that no progress had been started. And so I did request a chargeback because I didn't want to be scammed out of $500. You can only do a chargeback prior to 6 months. She knowingly omitted the full screenshot where she says we're going to communicate via Discord. Seems malicious. I'm going to bed now. So here, the communication was January 21st, 2025, where Juliet sends a picture of her Trello. If you don't know what Trello is, it is like basically a sort of calendar that kind of keep track of where your commissions are at. So you can see there's like people in line. And then Juliet says, this is more accurate to your spot in line, sort of. 2 months later, March 27th, Juliet DMs, hello dear, I'm wanting to move my commissions over to Discord instead of Twitter. Would you mind adding me there if possible so I can send you updates on your model when it's your turn in line? My username is needy. Just respond here and let me know what your username is so I can update it on my Trello so I know who to contact. Aria adds, also, she has me blocked so I can't reply directly to responses, but I didn't block her. She could have reached out at any point via Discord like I did to ask about the refund. I requested a partial refund for the model since according to Trello it hadn't started yet, and offered to let her keep the amount for the design since that was all I ever received. She declined. I'm not going to argue with her on this. The bank sided with me because I only received a partial product after 6 months with no progress. Just to add on for anyone wondering, I changed my name for fun, not to avoid drama or needy or anything like that. As for mutuals, they can vouch I changed aliases a ton prior LOL. I'm not trying to farm, I would have kept this private, but I wasn't happy seeing the lack of context. I'll attach the Discord messages, which you could have found with enough effort unless she literally closed out our DMs. Though they don't really add much, they do corroborate that I asked for a partial refund. I did check her Trello frequently, and my name never moved. So Aria writes on April 4th, if possible, could I get a refund on the VTuber model since it hasn't been started yet, or a partial refund for just the extra paid to make it a full body VTuber model art, and you can keep the amount for the design since I technically received that. I don't feel comfortable using it anymore, and it hasn't been started on yet according to the Trello. I purchased it back on January 8th. This is referring to the Violet Bunny model for Skip VT. And Juliet says, sadly, I can't allow refunds. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Sad face. At the time, Needy had been saying she was going off Twitter because of her reputation tanking from being called out by multiple artists, and I had no idea when the model would end up getting worked on. I wasn't going to risk the 6-month limit and get hit with $500 down the drain. I only ever received the reference image she posted, which was automatically delivered via coffee. Never got the full model. I won't be using the art out of respect, of course. I don't intend to interact with this going forward. Thank you for the support. And Julia adds, as you posted in your screenshot, I did tell you that your work was in line. The waitlist is public for everyone to see, including you. You can see the long list before you purchase the adoptable. You can also contact the artist anytime you like. As you did not pay for rigging, the model was completely not related to me. It was all through your artist who did not deserve a refund, so I took that fall for her. And I have no hard feelings for you, but refunding somebody is super uncool, especially after you received the design art already and we were in contact and I denied your refund via Discord. There's a DM Aria sent on Twitter saying, just checking in on this, any updates? If there aren't any, that's okay. And the response from Juliet reads, your art has been ordered and is in line. There are a few people ahead of you, so it will be a little, but I'll update you as soon as I can. You can watch your spot in line here and link to Trello, but you're way at the bottom of the list. I do not want you to worry because those people are all from different artists, so your models are being worked on at the same time from different people. Juliet writes, you can see the Trello list moving up once a month. You can contact me anytime and I always reply. I could have talked you through any doubts you had, but you asked for a refund. I said no, it's against TOS, then you ghosted me and filed a case. You can see the model artist actively post models. You're grasping at straws to find a reason to justify scamming me because you're afraid I was a scammer, despite dozens of models being output and all the proof public to see. Hysterium adds, scamming you? You're an obvious middleman for no apparent reason. Trying to pretend to be a general contractor 6 months on the model when you clearly are hustling other artists is insane. Yes, I'm aware the studios exist, but you aren't a studio. So yeah, this is kind of the way Needy, aka Juliet, operates. They are a rigger, but they are not an artist. So they will not draw the models, but they will rig models. In this case, it seems like Aria wanted a full body VTuber model to be drawn, but not to be rigged. In that case, because Juliet does not draw models, Juliet seemed to have outsourced it to somebody else to then draw the artwork for the model, and Juliet was essentially acting as a middleman. You might be like, why is Juliet doing this? Julia has said previously the reason they do this is because they are a creator in the V space that is known for doing giveaways, for connecting people who want models with models. So they will act as a middleman. They will rig the models sometimes, but they'll like connect people to friends that will do the art. Is that unnecessarily complicated? I do think so, but that's just how Juliet operates. I would say for this, it goes twofold, right? People are blaming Arya, people are blaming Juliet. I think there's fault on both parties, and let me explain before you start jumping to conclusions. People are saying that Arya should have read the TOS and known. I do agree in that if the TOS does say no refunds, no guaranteed date, that is in the TOS. And if you do agree to work with the artist, you have to abide by the TOS. So because Arya chose to go and work with Needy for this model and this design, that is in Needy's TOS. And for the most part, that is an agreement you have to abide by. So you have to pull the you should have known, you should have realized. Now, it could also be one of those things. I don't know Arya, right? I don't know their VTubing experience, but sometimes if this is your first time commissioning a model, your first time getting a design, you just don't know what to expect, and you can't predict for unseen circumstances that you don't know of because you don't know what you don't know. So I can definitely give benefit of doubt and empathy to Arya for potentially Arya saw those and was like, oh, but like, I'm sure everything will be fine. Ended up not being fine, but Arya in the beginning likely didn't assume they weren't going to get their model in a reasonable time. In the future, I think what expectations should be communicated from both parties. And if you have an expectation, you want to receive your model by a certain time, that should be communicated to the artist. As in, hey, I need my model within 6 months. This is my deadline. Can you work around that? And if the artist in their TOS has I don't do deadlines, then that's just not the artist for you. Now, on the other side for Needy, I personally don't agree with a no refunds whatsoever in the policy because I think that will lead you into situations that will cause you to end up or your client to end up in financially sticky situations. Some people, artists, will put a no refunds in their TOS because they spend the money instantly. And so therefore, if you refund them, you fuck them over because they already spent the money. I disagree with this financial practice. I love talking finances. I talk about it a lot on my other socials, but financial education and financial responsibility is very important. And to spend money that you received for a service you didn't complete is not good because then you end up in a situation where there will be cases that people need to refund and you will not be able to follow through on the refund because you spent the money. I've seen it happen a bajillion times on my channel. Please don't do that unless you absolutely need it. Like, let's say your house burned down and you need to make some money. Obviously, understandable, extreme circumstance. But for the most part, please stop treating your clients like credit cards and spending it before you've completed the service. Also, I don't do deadlines. I get it. You're busy, etc. You have a long queue. I would argue close your commissions until you catch up on your queue and then open them again so your clients can receive artwork in a timely manner. The reason why artists don't do this and they don't close their commission queue is, again, because they're borrowing from the future. They are using the money that clients have paid them for future services in the present. And that's why they need to keep their commission queue open and why their queues end up so long, because they need the money those future people pay them. And if they close their comms, they're going to miss out on all those people's money because they were spending money that they didn't have yet, essentially, because they didn't complete the service yet. So that would be the ideal situation. Close your queue until you can catch up on the stuff you owe people. It would just make all of the circumstances go better, less misunderstandings, expectations will be managed better. I would also say, as an artist, you should be very familiar with the art process, especially after doing it for a very long time, like somebody like Juliet. So even if you have clients that are very new to this, maybe they don't know how like getting a VTuber model would work, you should make the process as easy to understand for them as possible. As in, here's a Trello. Here's how you can take a look at the Trello to get updates. I will DM you updates in a reasonable manner and define reasonable because your definition of reasonable may not be your client's. So something like every single month, I'll do a check-in with you just to give you an update as to where the progress of your model is at, which is fair because VTuber models are very time consuming to make. So the client and you are on the same page. When you say reasonable, that's a very vague term because everyone has a different definition. And then give them a deadline. Like by this date, I will give you the flat colors. by this date, I will give you the full render so you can use it. So we'll be on the same page in terms of expectations. I think communication, again, is really important. That's always something that people talk about in these cases. And when you lay everything on the table with numerical things that people can visually track, as in dates, times, whatever, then both of you guys have no room to misinterpret the definition of reasonable or a long time, which is very vague, because 6 months to Aria was too long. But I think overall, it's one of those where I think as the artist, you should have known better to make your process more fair. Now, there was the final thing of the Discord where Needy or Juliet was like, I couldn't find your Discord. Aria was like, you had me on Discord. We won't ever know how that situation will play out. Maybe Aria changed their Discord name and it bugged out on Juliet's end. Maybe Juliet had a whole bunch of clients, lost Aria and their like the Discord DMs they had. We'll never really know. It definitely could be a one-off error of like an accidental miscommunication, because Juliet does do a lot of art at one time for people, or like manages a lot of artwork. But I would also argue this could also potentially be a situation where you took on too many clients, and therefore, because you have too many clients, you have a hard time managing communication with all of these people. So Shadri write, unable to feed myself, I will be giving the model away. Logic has left the chat. And Juliet had this post literally like maybe 10 minutes after their first post, writing VTuber model giveaway. When this model fully rigged with expressions, the model is in the making and will be done at a later time, but you'll receive the design art right away. Like, retweet, follow, Twitch Juliet, comment your intentions with the model. Will you be rebranding, giving it to a friend, etc.? There's no wrong answer. Design art by Lunia Luz, model art by Solely Soul, rigging by Juliet. So yeah, I mean, hey, if you got the artwork back because the person refunded, so therefore the design goes back to you. If you were the owner of it, then you're entitled to do whatever you want with it, including donating it or giving it away, even if your original intention was to make some money off of it. So, I mean, you are entitled to do that. But this is just another situation that kind of cropped up on Twitter, so I wanted to talk about it because it is involving somebody we've previously talked about. Again, don't send hate to any parties involved. That's not what this is about. We're not trying to send hate out here. I truly think, again, a lot of situations overall in the art space does just go down to miscommunication. Miscommunication that causes miscommunicated expectations, where one party thinks it's going to be done by a certain time or da 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 da, and the other person thinks, oh, I can take however long I want with this because that's what I said. So I would love to hear your thoughts down below about the situation. Again, please be respectful as always. So if you like this video, I appreciate if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on VGen. I sell art there. And I also have a coffee with free resources for streamers and creators. And I also stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch you guys there or in another one of my videos.